Hey, everybody, it's Cindy here. Welcome to another episode of the Life Makeovers podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. And I wanted to create a place for us to have real conversations about real life and really get down to the nitty gritty of some of our own experiences that we've had and how we've navigated those challenging times as we've gone through the middle of our lives and to share our little slices of wisdom that have helped us along our way so that you, the listeners, won't feel so alone maybe in your lives. Maybe you'll be able to grab on to something that's helped from somebody else that you could use in your own life that can help you move forward in whatever way you need to. So thank you so much for being here with me. I'm always honored to have you listen. And if you think there's value in these podcasts, please share it with your friends, your colleagues, your family, anyone that you think might benefit from dropping in on these conversations. So today is your lucky day, everybody, because I have one of the most wonderful women I know with me to talk with us today. Irasa Downing is here. Oh, Irasa, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Cindy. I'm excited to be here to talk to you today.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking about what year was it that we met? I mean, we lived in the same town at one
Yes,
point. I moved there in 2006, and you actually worked with my ex-husband at a
yes,
company there. So I
yes.
don't know if we met right in 2006 or when.
No, I think it was like 2008.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. And then ironically, I ended up working with your husband some with youth there in the
yes,
same town through a mental health program I was doing for youth because your wonderful husband was the principal at the school.
yes, that is exactly right. Yes, in our little small town.
Yes, our little nook in the world. But you've
Yes.
since moved on. I've since moved on, and life has
Mhm.
evolved. But we've stayed friends, and I really appreciate that. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
You're stuck with me for life, my friend.
Ah, lucky me, lucky me, lucky me, lucky me. Well, is there anything you would like to offer in terms of introducing yourself? Uh, Anything you want to share about yourself to let our listeners know a little bit about you?
Yeah, I can give a little backdrop. So, I have, gosh, I've been married for 25 years at this point. And I have two girls that are college age. Full-time job. I'm a principal at Edward Jones and have been in the human resources area, gosh, for 25 years. Love to give back. I sit on 4 boards right now. Very, very active in my church. So that's probably a little bit about me for fun. I like to do pickleball. That's my new hobby right now.
Oh, yeah, that's all the rage. Like I haven't tried it yet, but I have
Oh, Cindy,
friends
you've
who
got
are
to do
there
it.
playing pickleball.
You have got to do it. It is so fun.
'Cause I feel I would love it because I loved to play tennis, although I'm not good at it, and I
Mhm.
love ping pong, and I am good at it. So I
Then you would
thought,
be awesome at pickleball because to me, I think, and my husband always says, when we play ping pong, I mean, really, pickleball is just about placement,
mm.
So, and it's very easy to learn. It's like a 2-minute YouTube video and you got it.
All right, maybe 2023 will be my year that I
There you
that I
go.
got into the pickleball world. I have so many friends who play it and love it.
Just do it. Just do it.
Well, listen, you sound like a very busy lady, which of course I already knew you were, but 4 boards, a church, a full-time job, 2 young adult daughters, a 25-year marriage, and I know you have a big family too.
Yes. Yes. A
Glad to
huge
know you
family.
have time for a hobby. You make sure you have time for a hobby, at least one, huh?
Right. One.
Wow. So how's the balancing act for you? I mean, wow.
Yeah. It's been there's good points and bad points of that. And I have really, really been trying to learn and listen more than ever now to people that are probably, I would say I'll be coming up on 50 soon. And so, in that 50 to 60 age range, I'm listening to a lot of mentors and a lot of older women that have been in my situation to kind of see what's next or what's on the next horizon. But I'll tell you, it's not always easy balancing and keeping it consistently balanced, right? There's just some days that you're just going to spend more in the community than probably what I had anticipated. And there's days where I'm spending more, where I need to be more with my family than at work. So I think it all balances out over time, but no 2 weeks are alike. That's for sure.
I bet not. So when you've thought about women, in midlife, even when you were younger, did you have a
Mhm.
vision? Like, did you notice like what your mothers, grandmothers, aunties were, how they were living, or did you not get
Yes.
about your
Yes.
time?
I mean, and it's so funny, Cindy, because when I look at my mom and because my grandmother basically lived with me from when I was in sixth grade on. Okay. So she had retired and came to live with us to help my mom because my mom was a career woman as well. She was a research chemist at WashU, and my dad was an executive at General Motors. And so it
Wow.
was crazy because my grandmother was basically there 24/7. She prepared all of our meals for us. She got us up and going.
Wow.
And so when I think about that, I'm like, gosh, but my mom always seemed tired, like
Mm,
she was at that point 20 something years. She was, working at Washington University. So she had a high stress job. At that point, I think she was going through menopause. I didn't know much about it other than the hot flashes.
yeah.
But my dad saying, your mom must be going through menopause because she's crabby or whatever, those
Yes.
little things. But all I saw them really do is they didn't have much community involvement at that time.
Mm,
They went to church, but they didn't have a lot of side activities, no hobbies, no,
mhm.
it was just all about the family. And so I
Life.
saw that growing up and I was kind of like, God, that's boring. Like I love my family, but there's so much more to life.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
so that's kind of what I remember in their midlife. Like, my aunts, and I had a couple aunts that were entrepreneurs. And so they were kind of go-getters. They were a little bit younger than my mom because she was the oldest. But
Mhm.
so they might have been in their 30s,
Mhm.
40s ish.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
so it's kind of funny, they didn't really have a big focus on their health, honestly. So no exercise, around me really when I was growing up.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I remember, when I was a kid thinking, God, these are just old ladies. And I don't know if I want to ever be an old lady, when I grow up. Like, I just kept thinking it's got to look different.
It sounds like you experienced one of the things I thought I was watching, and that
Mhm.
was a bunch of very dutiful,
Yes.
dedicated women. Like,
Yes.
and a lovely, not complaining, just serving, the family, serving the gentleman in their lives or whatever. And some of them working outside the home and fully inside the home too, and,
Yes.
juggling it all or whatever. But yeah, I don't remember them. I guess my grandparents, one set of my grandparents were in a card club. Like once a month, they
Mhm.
get together with other couples and play pinochle, I think
Oh,
is what
yeah.
they
I
play.
remember that game. Yes.
Remember that. But other than that, like, yeah, no focus on exercise and not, I don't recall like hobbies either.
No.
Life was take care of the family, take care of the home,
Yes.
take care of the farm, take care of the business, whatever. Very
Yes.
dutiful. I just,
Very.
very
And
dutiful.
it's now that you mentioned that, I think about that too, because I did grow up on a ranch, right? So, where we did have a farm and that, and you're right. We had 20 acres. You don't need to go to the park. You go play outside, go ride your bike, go, and so we did all of our activities like that together. Camping, it was just family. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, life's really different now. So you took some of that in and said, I bet there's even more. And it
Hmm.
sounds like you're living that out, like you're experiencing a lot more in life than it looked like the older generations were experiencing.
Yes. There's a
Would have
lot that I can appreciate about their experiences and why they were so focused on their family
been.
compared to today,
Mhm.
that I miss, honestly. I miss the quality family time and the amount of time we had to spend together back
Yeah,
then than today. Because, when I think about what's hard for me today is change. The change is happening so fast. Our kids are growing up so much quicker than we did.
yeah,
And so staying on top of what they're into and what's new for them, as well as maintaining our jobs and our focus and our ambitions.
yeah,
Um, it's hard to juggle sometimes. And
yeah.
also I think, and I was asking my mom this the other night when she was over for Thanksgiving. I said, hey, help me understand, like, you guys, did you guys have this kind of political unrest, this racial unrest as bad as it is today? Um, what we're seeing, the global, economy, like, and she was like, yeah, but it was different.
Mhm.
It seemed much worse in some aspects, right? But I don't
Mhm.
know. Today it just feels like it's so much coming at us so fast that I want to retreat sometimes, and hide,
Oh
you
yeah, well,
know?
I definitely retreat and hide. I feel that. I totally get that. I think, what might be different. I've talked about this a lot with people and listened a lot of around it from other people's perspectives, but remember when you and I were growing up, the news was on twice a day for half an hour on
Yes.
three channels,
Yep.
right? In our
Yep.
town, it was Channel 3, Channel 6, Channel 7 was ABC, CBS, NBC,
Yep.
and
That's it.
like the evening news, and then
Mhm.
the 10 o'clock news. And they were
Right.
half hour maybe.
Hmm.
And you got a weekly newspaper maybe. And
Yes.
that's it. Like that was the news.
That was it. Yep.
And so now we've got this 24/7 ticker tape, several screens, hundreds of TV channels,
News
social media
alerts.
platforms everywhere, notifications we can receive. And so I don't know if the world is getting, if the weather's getting worse and the politics are getting worse, maybe they are,
Right.
but we know
Hmm.
everything going on that
Yes.
couldn't possibly have known.
Hmm.
We didn't know every move every politician or world leader was doing every minute of the day back in the
And
70s.
nor did we care, right?
Nor
Like,
did we care. Exactly. We let people be, right? We didn't
yes.
think you had to be in every. So yeah, I don't know, but that's really interesting, isn't it? So it,
Yeah.
it is a different culture that we're navigating for sure in that way.
Hmm.
So I get it. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yes.
So, well, what's been the most difficult part for midlife for you? I mean, I know some things, but I don't know what you would view as the
Yeah.
hardest thing you've ever been through in this, or that you care to share today anyway.
Yeah. I would say probably the hardest moments probably for me, if I was to honestly think about it, I think it's just the life transition. So, as you get older, you start seeing more of your friends that you went to high school with, or, either they're passing away or they're having significant health challenges. Um, I also think about my parents. So not only am I raising my girls that are, early adults, but it's also, parenting my mom again, right? And um, my dad passed away suddenly, so that was probably the hardest change for me, and that happened probably about 10 years ago. When he passed away, it really changed the dynamic of our family. And so that's when I moved, Cindy, from our little small town to St. Louis, where I live today, and to be here for her, and I think it's hard because as much as I love St. Louis, I don't know if this was my life plan to be here forever, right? But I do feel an obligation and a need and a want to take care of my mother, who lives here in St. Louis now. So watching her age, and age by herself has been really sad to me, because her and my dad were together for 40 something years, and their marriage was so foundational in my husband and I's marriage. They were our mentors. And so, to see her aging by herself, without her companion, seems to be hard, but we have totally brought her in, and like she did with her mother, right? Her mom lived with us. And so my mom does not want to live with us, but she wants to be very active in our lives. And so we make sure that that's happening.
I really admire that so much when families do that and do it so well.
Mhm.
So if we have people out there who are caregiving for their parents and they're struggling with that, what would you share as your encouragement or hope or empowerment for them?
So I would say, probably as my mentors have shared with me, is extend grace.
Mm,
And grace for yourself to have your moments where you don't want to be bothered, or you want some quiet time, or you need to retreat, as we kind of talked about earlier, and then have grace for them that they're not who they used to be either. And they're struggling, with their own sense of being, or, sense of belonging of who they are. And um, so grace has been my word, when I think about, dealing with my mom or my siblings, us planning around her, is, she doesn't want to, she doesn't want us to have to take care of her either, as much as we don't want to have to go do these things sometimes. And my mom is considered highly independent. She lives on her own. She's 82 years old. She does very well. She still drives. She takes herself to appointments. But there are those points where she needs advice and guidance, and she doesn't want to listen, right? Because we're her kids. What do we know? So I just have to say, if I was in her shoes as a very independent woman myself, I get it. It's grace. I have to extend grace. Um, so I think, for those that are going through it, and feeling like you have the weight on your shoulders, you do, but also be okay with stepping away from it for a minute, to get yourself together and to anchor back to who you really are and what you need. Because clearly that's an indication. When I get to my frustration points, I'm like, all that is telling me is that I need some time. I need some time for myself.
I love how you said find your anchor.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Get to your
Yeah.
touchstone, right? And get
Yes.
centered back to yourself.
Yes.
We can't lose ourselves in the care of others, no matter how much we love them. It's just like when we had little children and our
Absolutely.
lives to become so consumed with those little people.
Mhm.
For our elders, the same thing can happen.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you're keeping your balance pretty well.
Yes. And I'm
They
huge
get
on
ready.
planning. I know that not a lot of people are planners, but you know, um, this time of year is where I really anchor down, to my plan for next year. So what's the frequency in which I want to see my mom,
Mhm.
and making sure that I make time for that. I call it First Fridays for Family Day. So, the first Friday of every month, the extended family gets together, meaning her brothers and sisters, that are here local. We do a happy hour dinner. So, I plan all of that for our family so that, she has something to look forward to. And then we have our quality time every other Saturday having breakfast together. So, it's a lot, but in my like I said, in my world with everything being so busy and so much going on, I have to be more thoughtful about planning things out.
Yeah, I love how you're so intentional and
Mhm.
that you put on your calendar those
Mhm.
things just like you would a board meeting or
Yes.
a team meeting or
Mhm.
a work trip or a
Yes.
doctor's appointment, or it just goes
Mhm.
on there, just like all
Yes.
the priorities you have in your life.
Mhm.
How wonderful you take the leadership in that for your extended family.
Yeah.
You're such a gem. Oh,
Oh, thank
I
you,
have the
Cindy.
greatest women in my life. Gosh, I'm so lucky.
No, I'm lucky to have you because I think back, Cindy, you were such a help to me. And when I think to my 30s and 40s, where you were really pivotal, and I remember so many conversations about this is, being an executive mom and, trying to balance career and life and all these things and the pearls of wisdom that you gave me. And even just listening to the podcast and the different communication pieces that you put out, you just have to reflect, like what does this mean to me and what can I do differently as a result of it, because some things we bring on ourselves and we own our own we need to own our own stuff, right? Like,
Yep.
period. And we bring on so much unnecessary drama from the things that we can't control. I don't know when my mom is going to pass away. However, I need to be prepared for it. I need to be thoughtful about, what things do we have in place for her. And so I'm working, with her on that right now. Like, mom, she's really independent. She wants to keep her finances and all that. And I'm like, Mom, listen, we are
We
here
want to see
together.
you,
We
but
want to help you. Yes. And
yes.
so, but I've slowly just been introducing her to my financial advisor so that she can feel comfortable sharing. And, those are one of those, things from back in the day that they didn't trust, financial advisors, nobody can manage their money better than themselves. And so,
Put it
you
under
know,
your mattress because you can't trust any,
exactly,
right?
you can't, so I'm like, oh, it's a hoot, but it's definitely been helpful planning.
That's awesome. Well, I think you've really articulated well a thing I hear often from people who are trying to support their elders and their families, and that is we want to honor that they are still people. Like they
Yes.
are people with feelings and desires and hopes, just like they've always had,
Hmm.
but yet they also need a hand up sometimes too.
Absolutely.
And we anticipate they'll need us more
Mhm.
and more and more. And like, so how can we have those gentle but important conversations so everybody wins, like as best as you can with all the worst case scenarios that life can bring. So,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So how's the empty nest going for you?
Oh my God, I love it. And you know what is so funny, Cindy? All of my girlfriends were like, you are going to be a mess because I'm very tight with my girls.
Sure.
And they were like, you are going to, I just don't know. And da, 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 da. And I was like, no, I'm telling you, I'm going to be fine. Like, I will be fine. And I am so looking forward to it just being my husband and I. Um, and so we have totally loved it. The girls are thriving. Kyra is a senior this year down at Xavier, and
Wait a
she's
second.
studying
She's a
medicine.
senior?
Isn't that crazy? So she'll be,
Oh my gosh, where did that go?
I know, it's
Crazy.
crazy.
I remember when you like posted her graduation from high school.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I just need a second. Okay.
You
Reel
had
it
a
in.
moment. You had a moment. Yes.
She's going to graduate from college and go to med school.
Yes. That's where
Oh,
she's headed. And then Kamari's a freshman, and so in at Tennessee State in Nashville. And so they're away from home, and we have just totally taken it upon ourselves to travel. We do weekend little getaways. We do our own little retreats at home, where we tell nobody that we're here, so we have loved it. We have absolutely loved it. And we knew this day was going to come, and we've always dated, every week we've always had dates, date nights. Even when our kids were small, because I think it's so important. My mom gave me that very sage advice, like always date your husband.
Yes,
Nothing better than that advice.
that is great advice. And that was one of my mistakes in my
Yeah,
marriage was we did not keep our relationship the priority.
right. And
Uh,
it's hard and it's easy, right? It's easy to do that.
oh yeah.
Um, with
Yep.
so much going on.
Everything else came before,
Hmm.
really. So I love that you and Curtis are like on your second honeymoon and like
Yes.
having retreats at home when nobody knows. I'm loving that. Dates,
Yes,
traveling, and that you're delighting in this season. And
I
isn't
am.
it a joy to watch the girls like come into their own?
Yes. It's
Wow.
kind of like unbelievable because I take a step back and I'm like, they actually are making really good decisions, or that
Yeah.
was a crazy decision, but they're figuring out how to undo how to unplug that, right? Like, so it's kind of like one of these things where you're like, because I think as you're going through it, you never kind of pat yourself on the back as a parent and say, we're doing a great job, because it always feels like there's something wrong. Right? And now I can finally see some of the fruits of our labor of, that they are capable of making good decisions and being productive citizens. And I love that they're giving back in their communities, like they're, raising funds and, so
Wow.
I'm more proud of that, of their character than, them going to college or anything else. I think it's just more about who they are, that I continue to just take a step back and just say, wow, these are our girls. Like God has given us this gift to, help raise them. And they are just truly a blessing, to us and
Mm.
everybody else that's around them. So,
Awesome. I love it. So wait, that I'm glad you said that too, because when people are struggling with the empty nest or they're not always pleased with their kids' decisions, that isn't
it
everybody's
happens.
story. Not everybody's like just
Mhm.
watching their young adults thrive. Some of them are watching them like, just fall
Self-destruct. Yeah.
apart, be
Mhm.
lost and not sure what to do. And then there's that parent in you that wants to rescue and
Mhm.
save and take over, and that's really not our place
Nope.
at this point. They've got to problem solve, they've got to figure
Mhm.
out what their path is, and if we try to come in there and take over, we are denying them their path. Like they
Exactly.
create their own path. And so I know it's a tug of war for some people, but I'm glad to know that you're celebrating who your young ladies have evolved to
And,
be.
and you know what? And to your point, Cindy, I think even on their bad decisions, right? Like it's not all great decisions. It's also their bad decisions. And, my youngest was home for the holiday and we were just talking about that. And I said, I maybe don't care about the boyfriend she has today, like, or that she's dating. Um, for multiple reasons. But at the end of the day, I told her, I said, that's your decision, and you get to make choices. And regardless if your dad or I like it, it's yours to live with. So it's very different, but we do have boundaries, in our house. And you're going to respect those. When you move out, then you can do what you want to do,
Sure.
but it's one of those things where I think we have to allow our kids to bump their heads. And I think this generation of moms, my peer group, feels like there is we always have to jump in and save and save and save. And that's not how I was raised. And because my mom and grandmother were pretty hardcore about that.
Mhm.
And so, I'm extending that to my girls. It's like, you better figure out, what you want to do and have a plan.
Yes.
So we just have to be okay with it. And it doesn't make us failures as moms or as parents, because we allow our kids to bump their heads. I think some things they just need to do that.
I think it's very respectful of them actually to
Mhm.
sit back and try to resist the temptation to come in and handle whatever, but
Mhm.
also to be that safe place where if they need consultation or they really are in trouble, that they know, oh, I do have a solid foundation with my parents or what, or my family or whatever.
Yes.
I can lean into them if I really am out of sorts.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's, I've even said to my kids, I've said, I don't necessarily know what's best for you.
Mhm.
I might
Mhm.
think I know.
They're probably like, "Mom, but you know everything."
I have a top 10 list of ideas for both of them, but but when I'm really honest,
Yes.
I know what's best for them.
Yeah.
I don't. I
Right.
don't. So I have communicated that.
Mhm.
And
And
when
what's
they
their response been?
I think they appreciate it.
Yeah.
I've said sometimes the kids will say, and probably your girls do this too, where they tell you something that's going on that might
Mhm.
be a little stressful for them, or they're
Right.
weighing a decision, and I'll listen, and then they'll look at me like, okay, what are you going to say about this?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
will say to them, do you just want me to listen, or do you want my opinion?
Yes.
And then they tell me which, and I'll either just listen, or if they want my opinion, I'll give it. But I've gotten really good at, I think,
That's a
about
really good takeaway for me.
just
It's
giving my
just to ask
opinion.
up front. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Do you
love
want my
that.
opinion, or do you want me just to listen?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it's it's either or, and I love that, because if they want my opinion, I will give it. And then I will say, it's just my opinion.
Mhm. Mhm.
Take it, leave it, alter it, throw it out the window, whatever.
Yeah. I think it's, there's been days where like you talk to them and y- you don't want to show it on your face, like disappointment or,
Yes.
you're upset or whatever the case may be. And then I, come out of it and I'm like, oh my God, I just need to sit here and cry for a minute. I need to just let it out. And I've done that, I've done that. And I'm like, oh my God, now I feel better that I let it out. But
Yes.
you know so I think, again, it goes back to extending grace to ourselves in those situations too, right? Like, and
Yes.
to them, like, yes, you upset me or you hurt me or whatever, and I know that wasn't your intention, but that's how I felt as your mom or whatever. So right now, that's the phase I'm in. It's a grace thing. Like, there's not a lot that gets me too riled up.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. I mean, I think that's a great approach to everything,
Yes.
relationships, work, self.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
changing gears a little bit, like, what's been the most pleasant surprise of midlife for you, or this season that you're in? Probably those quiet, private retreats at home with your husband.
Exactly. I think it's like I didn't know what to expect about when the girls left, how we were
Mhm.
gonna be. Um, and that has been like one of the, like you call it the surprise and delight. That has been it for me. Like, we get to go out and we don't have to check in with anybody or tell make sure that they have food or
Yes,
um,
very
so
freeing.
yes, that's been like off the chart. Um, and then I think my new love of, playing pickleball at this stage in life, I probably would have never guessed either that I would be active in some kind of a sport or, having fun doing exercise. Because
Yeah.
that's probably, if you say what's the hardest thing, I think it's getting myself to exercise. That is probably the hardest thing for me.
Mhm.
But when I think about what is most important to me in retirement and beyond, what I'm, focused on is health as well. I can have all the money in the world and
Yep.
financial plan, I do all these great things that we're supposed to be doing.
Totally.
But if my health isn't where it needs to be, none of those things matter. And it's finally sinking in. Like, it has taken me this long, honestly, to really appreciate my health. And every morning I get up and say, even though I may have some crooks and crannies, where I'm like, oh, that hurts, this hurts, like new things hurt. I always say, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for, that I can see well, that I can get out of bed, that, um, and at this stage of life too, you're looking at your body and you're like, you're never satisfied, and I put on my mirror, which is so funny. I put in my mirror in the bathroom about, I am made perfectly in God's image.
Oh,
So every time I look in the mirror and I get disgusted about what I see, I look at that sticky note every day. I'm made perfectly in God's image. And
I love
there's
it.
nothing more satisfying than that, right? He knows every hair on our head. He knows every, you know, piece of cellulite that's hanging out on the side. He knows
He doesn't mind
everything.
our roles that
He
slip
doesn't.
over our jeans.
Exactly. And I'm like, so why should I be, oh, unless I'm going to do something about it, I'm not going to complain about it. And so that's just kind of, where I'm at with, so, I exercise, I try to eat really, really well. Um, but health is wealth. I do all of my checks, for the OB checks, my annual physical screenings, like everything that's required, I'm on top of because I truly believe health is wealth. Um, and it's so funny being in the financial industry, I heard this, there was this age wave study and it asked retirees, so, what is most important to you when you retire? Is it your financials? Is it family time? Is it, vacations? Like, is it your hobbies? What is it? Every last one of them said health. That's the number one thing. And guess what we don't plan for? Well, our health,
Probably that. Yep. Isn't
right?
that
So,
something?
yes,
Wow. Wow. I love that. Health is wealth. Yeah. And to me, health is not even just the body, it's
right.
my healthy mind. Like I
Mind.
keep my
Yes.
mind sharp. So like I play little word search games, like maybe 30 minutes a day, 15 to 30 minutes a day. Like I'm looking for, I'm doing word searches or
Mhm.
like crossword puzzles or Sudoku puzzles or just something
Yes.
that
It
trains
keeps you
my
sharp.
mind. Yeah, and I don't use a calculator every time I'm like adding up my business expenses for the month or what I
Mhm.
just do brain. I use my
Which
brain
is really good. Yes.
and then of course emotional and mental health well-being is a huge
Yes.
conversation with me always because of my 25 years as a therapist and all the personal development and coaching and everything. So and then spiritual health, I think it's so
Huge.
important to have something in our lives that we really can stand strong within whatever belief
Mhm.
system, philosophies, if it's a divine uh, being of some sort,
Yes.
whatever it is, that people have something they can really lean into and believe in that's beyond that has a bigger perspective than their own.
Absolutely.
I
I
think
am 100% believer in that, of meditation.
yeah,
Um,
I love that.
the funny thing is, too, in the last couple of years, I've started doing yoga.
Oh,
And you know what really drove me there is because one of my girlfriends told me that she had extremely high blood pressure. She started doing yoga and she completely is off meds and all these different things. So
yeah,
I started doing yoga
there
for
you
that
go.
reason, right? It's because of the high stress and that brings and it is so true. My blood pressure came down. Like it is
Excellent.
unbelievable what yoga can do and meditation. Um, but again, it's like one of those things that when you're younger, you just check the box and you're like, I don't need to do that. Like I'm good. You think you're good all the time and you're not. You need that time to really meditate and be reflective and spend time with your spiritual being. To think about those things, to be reflective of, um, what you need to do, what you've done, what's gone well. So yeah, I've loved that too. I think that's super. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a really important piece.
Well, and I really appreciate this conversation too around aging and retirement years, health, all that, because what is wealth also? I mean, I know part of it, I mean, I want to feel financially secure my whole life,
Yes.
prepare well for the time when there's not a steady stream of income from me working my business or the
Yes.
I really believe in that kind of wealth. And
Yes.
to me, wealth is freedom. Like I want
Yes.
travel when I want to travel. I want to, whatever
Hundred percent.
I want to be
Yes.
able to do it. If I want to get a massage, I want to be able to do it, whatever. So I love the freedom. But to me, wealth is also very holistic. It's
It
like, do I
is.
have, quality relationships? Do I have,
Mhm.
do I feel like I'm having a meaningful experience every day of my life? Like to me,
Yes.
that's like, did I make a difference today? Somewhere,
I
anywhere, even
I
for a
feel
second?
I feel like you're reading like my personal journal here.
Oh yeah? Oh yeah. Woo.
Where it's because it
Yeah.
is. It's those things, right? It's like, and this is the age where we need to be thinking about, what is retirement going to look like? Because it's going to be very different for me than it was for my parents. Um,
Yeah.
and it may not be a full retirement. It might be a transitional kind of retirement. It might be, I want to start my own business. It could be a lot of different things. And
Yeah.
to your point around, wealth is what you define it to be for you. And I think so many people, and even, I talking to my mom, they get stuck in that you've got to have a certain number and you've got to do this and you got to do that. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. You need to have, financial security to be able to allow you to do the things you want to do. But it's so much more than that. And experiences is number one on my list, creating meaningful experiences and relationships for
Yeah.
life.
Oh, yeah. And it's different for every one of us, right? So my my paternal grandmother, my dad's mother,
Mm-hmm.
his parents, I could not have loved them more. They're deceased
Mm-hmm.
now, but they were married 76 years.
Wow. 76 years.
Yep, died in their 90s, both of them just a few months apart. But anyway, they lived very simply. They were not educated people as we would define educated people. I think he got through the 8th grade. Oh, she did get a GED because she went to college, get this, in her 70s to get an associate's degree because she wanted a college degree. But anyway, they were very materialistically simple people. They sit
Uh-huh.
on the same gold couch in their living room for 50 years. I mean,
Right.
they just, and they worked, they were hardworking folks. They had a farm and then they moved he was a janitor for years, but he was an artist on the side, but a
Mm-hmm.
poor artist. I mean,
Right. Yes.
anyway,
Yes.
their life was not fancy. They didn't travel the
Mhm.
world. They didn't, but she wrote this little it didn't turn into a book, but it was her writing about her life.
Mhm.
And I read it before I presided over her funeral. And I
Okay.
read it before I did that. And she said, I've lived a very exciting life, like
That's
a very
awesome.
exciting life. And I thought, I love that
I love that.
that was her version of an exciting life.
Right.
Um,
Right.
she sounded so happy, and they were just these very so loving. Anybody who
Mhm.
came through the door was there,
They
come
would
in,
serve
sit
and yeah.
down, here we are, sit on our gold couch and excuse me. And
I
but
love that.
but as if you polled 100,000 Americans, especially
Mhm.
in our generation, and said, "What is
Mhm.
an exciting life? What's an adventurous life?"
Right.
Their
That
life
wouldn't be
a lot
it.
of them looked like
Right.
that
That would not be
really
it.
was. So it's like, oh, and they never had financial wealth,
Right.
or materialistic wealth, but they were happy and they were together forever. And
And at the end of life, isn't that what you want? You want to be able to have said that. Like, you
Yeah.
know, and whatever that means for you, and that totally makes me happy for them. And, I think about, to your point, our parents, and going back to what I said earlier around part of that I miss, right? The simplicity of life back then.
Yes.
Um, at least in my child's eyes, it
Yes.
just seems so simple, right? And the little things that they did and how they just were so family oriented. But
Yeah.
that is what made them the most happiest people, right? It's like, for my parents, they were super ecstatic about that. And they didn't need anything else. My dad said, I'm the richest man, walking the planet because I have everything I've ever wanted right here.
Wow.
And, so yeah. And for sure, I'm a big fan of money is not our God, and we don't live that way. Like, it's just not, I am much happier giving away than I am receiving. Um,
Mhm.
so if he gives me more, I'll be able to give more away. That's
Right.
just how
Well,
it's going to happen,
that is the law of circulation, the
Yes.
more we are given, the more we are, how did Oprah
Or
say
too much is given, much is required, I think is
much
a,
is given, much is required. Yes,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I love that. Oh, I love it. So the other thing before we wrap it up is that I love to mention anytime aging comes up because we have a lot of women out there, Irasa, who
Mhm.
are struggling with aging, who
Yes.
are in their 40s, 50s, 60s and thinking it's too late for them. Now they're just going to get older, sicker, and die. I mean, I hear that frequently from women.
Wow.
And I have women ask me a lot, what's my greatest anti-aging secret? And for
Mm.
me, it's happiness. I don't know
Mhm.
about for you, but for me, it is, I think the best. I mean, I've got some cream in my bathroom cupboard, that I
Right.
put
Yes.
on before I go to sleep at night. But
Right.
I strive to keep joy a daily priority. And I think that's doing the trick
To
more than
me, that is the secret ingredient, Cindy. I mean, I holistically agree with you on that because, it doesn't matter how much cream we put on our face or the
anything.
next gadget that's out there.
Right.
We're made one way and we're going to go back to dirt, right? So
Yep.
at the end of the day, it's embrace every pivotal moment you have. And when I think about the pivots in my life, whether it was career or it's family, or like I'm in a big pivot right now, right, with my girls being out of the house and
Yes.
me taking care of my mom, like, all of these different pivots I
Mhm.
am trying to embrace with so much joy and love because I know one day I'm going to be able to say, my mom is no longer here. But the times that we had together, I loved and I cherished and I was present. I was present. And so, to your point, I think that is what so many people are seeking is what is happiness? What is joy? What does that really feel like?
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and I think you got to open yourself up and be vulnerable enough to allow the stuff you can't control to let it go, right? Let it go.
Yeah.
And the things that you can control, insert joy and happiness and new experiences every day.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. I say to people, sort the laundry. What can you
Mhm.
control and what can't you
Yes.
control? And just do your own laundry.
Mhm.
Know?
Oh my God, I love that analogy. I love that analogy. I'm going to use that one for my girls. Let me write that one down.
Write it down. Write it down. Yeah, I've been taking notes too. I forgot to tell you. I take notes during these conversations so I can do the follow up. 2 weeks
Okay.
from now. So
I'll be
to
like, I was like, did I really say that, Cindy?
how am I going to share all this wisdom in 5 or 10 minutes in a couple days? But is
Right.
there anything else? I mean, this has just been a glorious conversation. I've enjoyed it so much. I thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to say to our listeners out there?
I would just, I would end with how kind of we started with, thank you so much, one, for having me on. But I think for all the listeners, if I could just ask you all one thing, that one thing would be to extend yourself grace every day. and be thankful for whatever condition you wake up in, that today is going to be a great day, no matter what. So I would just say extend grace and give yourself a big hug, and it's going to be okay. Use your peer group, your friend circle, even if it's just one, to lean on, to share openly what you're going through. You don't have to do it alone. We're all struggling in some capacity. So just extend grace.
Mm. I love that. What a beautiful, beautiful thought to start and end on. Irasa, thank you so much for being here. Oh,
I,
I could
I
just
have
talk to
loved
you
it.
all day long. But I know you probably got to get to pickleball or your third honeymoon or something. Somebody else
Okay.
needs you right now. But thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening, for being with us today. I hope you found gobs of value in this conversation. Really appreciate. I know you have a lot of choices of how you use your time. And I really feel honored that you would take time out to be here with us today. And please, again, share the news of this podcast. It's pretty new out there. We've only been going for a couple months. And so I'd love for it to reach far and wide to any ears that really need to hear it. So thank you so much. And if you want to hear more about the coaching programs I have, or about my books or anything, if you need a speaker in your area, please go to cindydwhitmer.com. And I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.